Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge Town Council meeting of Monday, July 16th, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Slow down, confusing. Peace. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councilor Adams? Councilor Adams?
No, can't hear you.
Can't, yeah, the microphone's Councilor Adams?
Present.
Councilor Auclair? Councilor Daniel?
Present.
Councilor DePietro?
Present.
Councilor Jovan?
Present.
Councilor Manna? Present. Councilor Morales?
Present.
Councilor Nash?
Present.
Councilor Steves?
Present.
8 present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Okay, first off, just for the public, I'd like to apologize in the review of our agenda that we had proposed for tonight's meeting. Last week, we had discussed the fact that we were unable to come to consensus on a vice chairman, and we had moved it to this week. Unfortunately, it never made it to the agenda. We had proposed add an agenda item to add it and suspend the rules to add it. However, one of our members contacted the Attorney General's office for clarification, received a verbal advice that we should not proceed with that vote tonight. So with that, we will postpone it to our next regular meeting of August 6th. Item 3, consider and accept the Town Council 44th reorganizational minutes of Monday, July 9th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any errors, corrections, omissions? Councilor Daniels.
Yes, in agenda item number 5, it should be St. John Paul II Parish. Blessed is the old name, St. John Paul's the new name.
Any other corrections?
Oh.
Councilor
Yeah,
Steves.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Under item number 8, the roll call should actually be listed by name.
Roll call listed by name?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything further? All those in favor as amended? Unanimous of all present. Subcommittee reports. We did not have any changes in announcements, but we do have some meetings posted. Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a second set of minutes to approve for July 9th on the agenda?
Oh, the main meeting. I apologize. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
So, vote to consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, July 9th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I have 2 requested corrections. First of all, under agenda item number 3, the third line down where it starts Nash, to vote on this item, then it says Councilor Nash, period. I would have no problem if Councilor Nash was stricken. I think it refers to a statement that I had made, but it was insignificant. So I'd ask to have that removed. Then on page 2, the very last paragraph, top line, Councilor Nash, at the very end, the date should be 7/10, not 9/10.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Councilor Steves, did you have something?
Oh, yeah, actually I do.
Yes.
The agenda item number 13, next meeting date, Monday, blank, 2018, which obviously will be tonight, so.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Huh?
It was difficult to hear you.
Oh, actually, it is mentioned in the text that the agenda item was originally blank, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything
So I guess
further?
right.
All those in favor?
I will be abstaining.
Councilor Morales abstains. The rest approved. Okay. Anything further on minutes?
No.
Seeing none. Subcommittee reports. General government. Any report?
Don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Department of Public Works. Councilor
Mr.
Page.
Chair, nothing to report as we've had no meeting and none scheduled at
Thank
this
you.
moment.
EHS. Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to reiterate something I mentioned last meeting, if the subcommittee assignments are announced tonight, as I expect, as you and I have discussed, then I'll be asking for a meeting to be posted for next week to handle a couple of items. First of all, I heard that there were citizen member applicants to come to EHS. Since Councilor Daniel was elected and Ms. Shea was elected to the school committee, that committee currently has no citizen members, so I'd like to get that addressed sooner rather than later. And then there was one business item that was held over from the last sitting council that I mentioned, $3,000 or $4,000 transfer to cover modifications to a fence. So I'll work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Plan and Development, there is a meeting posted for Wednesday with a couple agenda items on that. PPP, Protection of Persons and Property, Council Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I did have a meeting tonight. There are no meetings posted as of yet, but I do know we will be having one soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman's announcements, just a couple things that I'd like to address tonight. First off, again, to my fellow colleagues in the council, thank you for your support last week. I do look forward to working with all of you. I do want to establish a team approach to the problems that the town is facing. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us. We all do need to work together to establish a vision of what we want our town and our community to be, and to build the partnerships with all of the constituents that we have. I am aware of some of the items that are from the past. While we can't ignore the past, we really do need to look to the future, and I really do want to instill a vision for the future to move forward. Having said that, I did have the opportunity last week to meet with the receiver, Dr. Villar. I just had stopped by just to set an appointment with him, and he graciously had me come into the office, and I spent over an hour with Dr. Villar. It was quite an enlightening conversation based on the fact that I had spent many years on the school committee, and it was interesting to see what his vision of the school district is and how it compared to some of the thoughts that we had as a school committee many years ago. His thoughts about MCAS testing, the fact that he does not believe that we should be all not involved in MCAS testing, but that should not be the end-all, be-all, and curriculum, and also his conversation with me about how he believes the finances, that he is very pragmatic, that he understands that the town has financial constraints, and that he wants to work with us and the town to move the district forward. So it was a very positive conference that I had with him. He has asked that I meet with him once a month, and we'll ask him to come to perhaps the EHS meeting so that he can share what he discussed with me with the entire council and community. Councilor Nash had brought up last week about goals and objectives. Certainly we have to move those forward. Having said that, I have set next Wednesday, July 25th, as a working council meeting for us councilors to discuss goals and objectives and to work with the town manager in developing what our thoughts are for the next year and how we plan on accomplishing them. Finally, as to subcommittee assignments, it was an interesting process to develop the subcommittee assignments. I did reach out to my fellow councilors. I did receive feedback from many as to what their desires were, what their thoughts were, and those that had expressed desire to be chairman of the respective subcommittees. Many of the subcommittees are still the same as last year's subcommittees. A lot of good work was done by those groups, and they need to continue and build on, especially with the newer councilors, including myself, to bring us up to speed. Having said that, I've developed the following subcommittee assignments. Department of Public Works, the chairman will be Councilor DePietro, Councilor Claire, and Councilor Nash. Protections of persons and property. There's no doubt that this chairman is quite the advocate of public safety. So Councilor Manna will continue as the chairman of that subcommittee with Councilor Morales and Councilor DePietro. Plan and Development, I did make one change based on my conversations with this councilor who expressed the desire to take the lead and had some thoughts. So the chairman of Plan and Development will be Councilor Adams, and Councilor Eau Claire and Councilor Morales will stay on that committee. Education and Human Services. This one, as we all know, we have a lot of work to do, not only with the school system, but also with our landfill, our trash pickup issues. So I've tasked Councilor Nash to continue the leadership of that subcommittee. He's done a fine job over the last year, and I've added Councilor Adams and Councilor Daniels, and my thought process in that was, given the fact that Councilor Adams comes from the Board of Health, so he has a vast experience in that field, and Councilor Daniels comes from an educational background, so it makes it quite the balance in order to bring those topics and vet those issues through that subcommittee. General government will be continued with Councilor Steves, with Councilor Manor, and Councilor Daniels had indicated a desire to serve on that subcommittee. So those are the subcommittee assignments, and I will pass those out later on tonight. So again, a lot of work for us to do. I look forward to working with this entire team as we move the town forward. So thank you. With that, town manager's announcements.
Thank you. First, just for the general public that's watching us, this room is about 120 degrees, so if you see that we don't have ties and coats on, that's probably the reason. I know this is tough, a tough night in this chamber in terms of the temperature, so I appreciate everybody working through it. I have one announcement to make. I want to read the announcement. It's from Bay State Roads. It's made out to me, and it says, "Dear Mr. Sanangelo, congratulations to the town of Southbridge on the success of Heather Blakely. Ms. Blakely has recently completed all the requirements of our Bay State Roads Scholar Program. This program requires that the applicant attend at least 7 of our training workshops. Each workshop requires a minimum of 6 hours of participation and is always challenging and often quite technical. Although the name Road Scholar is somewhat humorous and designed to catch attention, Ms. Blakely's accomplishment is very impressive because she has come to all our workshops ready to learn with a genuine interest in improving operations within the town of Southbridge. Heather has shown us that she is a professional who is serious about furthering her education and improving the way she accomplishes her work. We hope you are pleased with Ms. Blakely's achievement as we are, and that you will acknowledge her accomplishments within your department. This achievement lends itself very well to articles in local newspapers or community newsletters. Her participation will, of course, be announced in our newsletter M3 quarterly. More information about our program is available by contacting me, and the phone number or visiting the site is signed by Christopher Ajmadine, PhD, Associate Director. I just wanted to pass on my congratulations. We have a DPW Director who is doing an excellent job. It's nice to see that she's recognized, and I know she's going to continue to lead the way as it deals with our whole DPW department. So, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring that forward, and that is all I have as of this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Swearing in presentations at this time. We do not have a swearing in at this particular moment. Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens that wish to address the Southbridge Town Council? Just go to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Kathy Lavriori, 51 Mark Avenue. I have a real serious concern about the abuse of the yellow line grids in town. I don't know if other people have had the experience of, like today I was coming up Main Street and had my left directional on to turn onto Everett Street, and 2 cars came whipping all the way up the grid, and if I hadn't looked at the last minute to check again, I would have been hit by both of them. And I see this happening all the time. And some innocent, I'm not worried about those people, I'm worried about some innocent person who could really get hurt. And another time we were coming down Main Street by the old junior high, and there was a red light for all 4 areas, and someone came again whipping down the grid next to us and made a quick left-hand turn onto Marcy Street. Luckily, nobody was crossing the street, and it's just really scary. I don't know if barrels could be put there or something to be...
Are you all done, ma'am?
You know, I think if these people did this when they were going for their driver's license, I doubt very much they would pass. And I don't think they should have their licensed doing this either. Just,
Thank you. Councilman, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for you. Ms. LaFiore. That would be something for Chief Woodson and the Traffic Commission.
Okay.
So you should get in touch with him, or if you want to give me your contact information, I can pass it along to him.
Okay.
The town manager can. But I know this should be something that's brought up to the Traffic Commission.
Okay.
You're right. Those intersections are very dangerous. I sit at Hamilton Street on many mornings, and I watch people come down flying or going up flying through
yeah,
the red
it's
lights. So
really scary.
you're absolutely right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will certainly pass that information on to the chief. Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Just for information, I actually had a very similar conversation with Chief Woodson today about some concerns citizens had brought to me. So if it's quite all right, I will let you know that Chief Woodson was digging into similar circumstances along Main Street, and he's going to work with the DPW director to explore some alternatives and options in that same vein. I'll share what I know with Councilor Mann if she'd like to have that conversation with the chief going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other citizens that wish to address the Southbridge Town Council?
Good evening. Kevin Buxton, 28 Columbus Avenue. I came to tonight's meeting specifically because I understood there was going to be some response to a video discussed at the last council meeting about some birds and exposed trash at the landfill. And I was wondering, is there going to be any official discussion or a statement to that effect?
Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you. So a little bit of information, and Andy can add to it if he would like to as well. So, one of the concerns I had when they said they were taking off the cover material to get ready for actually capping the landfill, quite a bit of material is removed. And I was concerned that it wouldn't be covered up at the end of each day, but they do cover it up, but they cover it up with not as much material as they used to be. We have a person up there who's actually, believe it or not, it counts the birds because there was some issue as to the birds as it relates to the airport. So we are watching it more closely than ever, trying to make sure that it is covered at night. Again, because it's a light cover, I think there's going to be some more odor issues for a while until the cap is actually put in place in a permanent way. So yes, it's being addressed. Our Board of Health is looking very closely at it. I know that both Andy and Anna have discussed it quite thoroughly, and we're going to do everything we can to both reduce the smell, keep the birds down, and to try to keep it covered as much as possible in the closing process.
All right, I appreciate that comment. As a member of the Landfill Oversight Committee, we had a meeting on Thursday, but the subject was kind of, we didn't really discuss it because of the ongoing investigation or looking into what the actual aspect was. In the future, I'm hoping to see the Landfill Oversight Committee cover more of pressing matters. We just got ourselves back up and rolling again. I'd also like to point out at this time, I'm the one and only citizen member. We are allowed 2 citizen members, so if there's anybody interested in becoming part of the Landfill Oversight Committee, get a letter into the town manager with your interest, and we'd be happy to have you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Buxton. Are there any other citizens that wish to address the council? Any other citizens? Seeing none, move on to agenda item 9. Vote to confirm the fire chief's recommendation to appoint Christopher Wilson as a permanent full-time lieutenant with the Southbridge Fire Department, effective immediately. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief because I think this is more appropriate for the fire chief to talk about, but I did want to talk just briefly about the process and the general candidates. I was very pleased to be a big part of the interview process. Myself, the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, and our HR director were very involved. And I got to say, I want to clearly say it to all the firemen who are in this room, that we're extremely impressed with the quality of the candidates who applied for the lieutenant's position. The scores were all ranked from the assessment center and from each of us who did the individual interviews. And I got to tell you, it wouldn't have taken much one comment by any member to switch it from one person to another because the scores were so closely and the people were so qualified. So I want to really first off and make sure the public is aware of the great people we have within our fire department. It was a very difficult decision, and when you have to make a decision, what's sad is you can't pick everybody. You have to pick the highest scorer, and tonight that scorer come out, and I'll let the chief talk about that. But I do want to say it was nice to have the assessment center in place this year. We had people come in to do an assessment of our firemen, and they were independent, completely independent, and I think did a fine job. I've talked to a number of the firemen who told me they were very pleased with the process. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you for the fire chief.
Thank you. Chief DeFranzo.
Thank you, Council and Chairman. Tonight, I'm recommending Christopher Wilson for the position of full-time lieutenant within our department. As the town manager just outlined, this was the first time that we did an assessment center utilizing an outside, third-party, independent resource to give us a good picture of whether these candidates could handle the position of being a fire lieutenant. We also did an interview, and at the end of that entire process, Chris Wilson came out as number one. He's been in the fire service for over 22 years. He's been with our department for over 10. I personally have known Chris since he was 15 years of age. So he's grown up right before my eyes. And I can't say enough good things about this gentleman and the things that he's accomplished throughout his career. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity to recommend him for the position of full-time lieutenant within the Southbridge Fire Department.
Thank you. Councilman Manna, as far as the PPP, was vetted through your committee and unanimous approval to move to full committee, correct?
Yes, it was unanimous throughout the PPP, yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous for all present. Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Chris, if you would, raise your right hand. I, Christopher L. Wilson, do solemnly swear and affirm
I, Christopher L. Wilson, do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the town of Southbridge,
to the town of Southbridge,
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and will support the Constitution of the United States thereof,
and will support the Constitution of the United States thereof,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I, Christopher L. Wilson, do solemnly swear and affirm
I, Christopher L. Wilson, do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform
I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent upon me as a lieutenant of the fire department
all the duties incumbent of me as a lieutenant in the fire department,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
agreeably to the rules and regulations of the town of Southbridge,
agreeably to the rules of the town of Southbridge,
the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth,
the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Chris, you have a few words?
I just want to take a quick second, thank the Chief of Department for giving me this opportunity, as well as the councilors and the town of Southbridge as in a whole. I'll do the best that I can to be the best officer I can in this department, and I thank you all very much for your time.
Agenda item 10, vote to approve a transfer of $17,269 from FY 2019 Town Council Reserve to number 721 Insurance Premiums, Property and Liability to cover insurance costs for FY 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All right, just as a point of clarification for councilors, I was approached by Mindy and Karen during the week, and she said that this had come up before town council previously. The MIA insurance premiums, when they discussed the premiums, Wells Middle School could not be bound under the general MI insurance policies as it previously was done. They had to go out for a separate policy. By doing so, Maya had advised them, or they were advised by the insurance carrier, that if they prepaid by July 31st, we would have a $18,412 discount to the town of Southbridge by prepaying this. So by doing this transfer, we will be saving the town $18,412. Council Reserve has a balance currently of $100,000. I asked Karen and Mindy if it's possible that once Wells is sold, the purchase and sale agreement, once that sale goes through, any refund back through the insurance carrier, if it comes back to the town, be set for a transfer back to council reserves to replenish that account. So essentially, what we're doing is saving $18,000 by doing this transfer, and whenever the sale is executed and that premium is no longer needed, we would recoup any monies and ask that that be forwarded back to our council reserves. So with that question, Councilor O'Clair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. $18,000 for a credit, is that?
Yeah, I believe the premium itself was $500,000.
No, the premium for this specific property is $17,000. So I'm just, could I get some clarification on that? Thank you.
That would be the annual premium, but the closing expected to happen well before the annual cost. So what will end up happening is that the developer will reimburse us for, we'll get a credit back from the insurance company for what time period we don't use. And then we're also, as you know, we're going to get money from the developer to make up for that cost. So we're going to, effectively, it should cost us zero.
What's the credit, though? The credit isn't $18,000 for this specific.
Wait, the cost of the insurance is $17,000 for the year?
Yeah.
We only use half the year, let's say. Then we get the other half back.
But what is this? I understand all of that, but with the prepaying, what the chair stated is that if we prepay the $17,269.
No, it's to prepay the entire policy.
That's the whole cost of the insurance
So
for the year.
what is this $18,000 credit, I guess, is what where am I?
According to what Karen explained to me, was the entire premium was over $500,000. If they prepaid that, not for this one property, all insurance properties. Okay. So by prepaying that by July 31st, we realized a savings of $18,000. Okay. So the reason, that's why she was asking for this transfer. So because there was not enough money in that account right now. So if we transferred that money and prepaid that entire premium for all properties, we would realize this $18,000 savings.
For the entire premium. Okay.
Right, and then whatever savings we have, whatever is left on that property that we sell, I ask that it be returned back to that council reserve.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. It makes good business sense, I think. We're saving money.
Yes, absolutely.
So. Any other questions? All those in favor? Unanimous of all present. Vote to ratify the agreement between the town of Southbridge and Jennifer A. Reynolds of Woodstock, Connecticut, to provide low-impact aerobics classes for 100 citizens of Southbridge age 60 and over for 46 weeks for a total contract amount of $6,900 payable in 46 weekly payments. This is funded by the Council of Aging grant. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? My understanding is this is a renewal grant, and that's why they asked us to put it on. Okay, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous of all present. Vote to accept the proposed bylaw as attached in red to establish and authorize revolving funds for use by town departments, boards, committees, agencies, or offices in the town of Southbridge. This would be the second reading. I believe the last council moved to waive the reading. Is that correct, or did you read it?
No, we took turns reading.
You took turns reading.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
waive the reading. We like to read.
You like to read. Okay, there you go. So I guess I'll start with you, Councilman. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. A bylaw to establish and authorize revolving funds for use by town departments, boards, committees, agencies, or officers in the town of Southbridge. Whereas the town of Southbridge believes that the town should adopt a bylaw to authorize and guide the use of departmental revolving funds pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, and Whereas the town of Southbridge believes it is in the best interest of the citizens of the town of Southbridge to adopt and formalize the use of town funds for town purposes, and whereas the town of Southbridge believes that the adoption of this proposed bylaw will best achieve these purposes. Now therefore, the town of Southbridge, acting by and through the town council, pursuant to the power vested in it by Chapter 2, Section 4-1, and Chapter 2, Section 6 of the Southbridge Home Rule Charter, quotation, quotation, charter, comma, hereby takes the following action. Upon motion made, seconded, and duly passed, the Town Council of the Town of Southbridge, in the exercise of power conferred on it by Section 8 of Article 89, thank you, whoever helped me, and Councilor Nash, someone else over there too. Of the amendments to the state constitution, and by its own rule charter, does hereby adopt and enact the following addition to the Code of Bylaws, Town of Southbridge, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to be indexed as Chapter 11, Section 100 through Section 500.6.5, and to be known as Departmental Revolving Funds, and which is set out in its entirety as follows. Chapter 11, Departmental Revolving Funds, Section 11-100. Purpose. This bylaw establishes and authorizes revolving funds for use by town departments, boards, committees, agencies, or officers in connection with the operations of programs or activities that generate fees, charges, or other receipts to support all or some of the expenses of those programs or activities. These revolving funds are established under and governed by General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half. Section 11-200. Expenditure limitations. A department or agency head, board, committee, or officer may incur liabilities against and spend monies from a revolving fund established and authorized by this bylaw without appropriation, subject to the following limitations. A. Fringe benefits of full-time employees whose salaries or wages are paid from the fund shall also be paid from the fund, except for those employed as school bus drivers. B, no liability shall be incurred in excess of the available balance of the fund. C, the total amount spent during the fiscal year shall not exceed the amount authorized by Town Council or on or before July 1 of that fiscal year, or any increased amount of that authorization that is later approved during that fiscal year by the Town Council. Section 11-300, interest. Interest earned on monies credited to a revolving fund established by this bylaw shall be credited to the general fund. Section 11-400, procedures and reports. Except as provided in General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half in this bylaw, the laws, charter provisions, bylaws / ordinances, rules, regulations, policies, or procedures that govern the receipt and custody of the town monies and the expenditure and payment of the town funds shall apply to the use of the revolving fund established and authorized by this bylaw. The town accountant shall include a statement of the collections credited to each fund, the encumbrances and expenditures charged to the fund, and the balance available for the expenditure. In the regular report, the town accountant provides the department, board, committee, agency, or officer on appropriations made for its use. Section 11-500, authorized revolving funds. Section 11-500.1, lease properties revolving fund. Section 11-500.1.1, fund name. There shall be a separate fund called the Lease Properties Revolving Fund authorized for use by the Community Services Department. Section 11-500.1.2, revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Lease Properties Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the lease and other revenue charged and received by the Community Services Department in connection with the lease of town-owned properties, except for the airport. Section 11-500.1.3, purpose and expenditures. During each fiscal year, the Community Services Department may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Lease Properties Revolving Fund for repairs, improvements, utilities, and other expenses for all town-owned properties except for the airport. Section 11-500.1.4, other requirements reports, none. Section 11-500.1.5, fiscal years. The leased properties revolving fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1st, 2018.
Do you want to take a break, Councilor?
Yes, please.
Councilor
Thank you.
Nash?
Certainly. Continuing, Section 11-500.2, Southbridge Airport Leased Properties Revolving Fund. Section 11-500.2.1, Fund Name. There shall be a separate fund called the Southbridge Airport Leased Properties Revolving Fund, authorized for use by the Airport Commission. Section 11-500.2.2, Revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Southbridge Airport Leased Properties Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the lease and other revenue charged and received by the Airport Commission in connection with the airport. Section 11-500.2.3, Purpose and Expenditures. During each fiscal year, the Airport Commission may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Southbridge Airport Leased Revolving Fund for repairs, improvements, utilities, and other expenses in connection with the airport. Section 11-500.2.4, Other Requirements/Reports, none. Section 11-500.2.5, Fiscal Years. The leased property revolving fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1st, 2018. Section 11-500.3, Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund. Section 11-500.3.1, Fund Name. There shall be a separate fund called the Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund, authorized for use by the Health Department. Section 11-500.3.2, Revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the fees from lost toters received by the Health Department in connection with the Toter program. Section 11-500.3.3, Purpose and Expenditures. During each fiscal year, the Health Department may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund for replacement of toters in connection with the Toter program. Section 11-500.3.4, Other Requirements/Reports, none. Section 11-500.3.5, Fiscal Years. The Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1, 2018. Shall I continue? I'm happy to.
Very good. Thank you.
Section 11-500.4, Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund. Section 11-500.4.1, Fund Name. There shall be a separate fund called the Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund, authorized for use by the Health Department. Section 11-500.4.2, Revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the revenue recaptured by the Health Department in connection with the Demolition of Buildings program. Section 11-500.4.3, Purpose and Expenditures. During each fiscal year, the Health Department may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund for expenses associated with the demolition of buildings. Section 11-500.4.4, Other Requirements/Reports, none. Section 11-500.4.5, Fiscal Years. The Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1, 2018.
Okay. Councilor DePietro?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Section 11-500.5, Municipal Hearing Officer Revolving Fund. Section 11-500.5.1, Fund Name. There shall be a separate fund called the Municipal Hearing Officer Revolving Fund, authorized for use by the town manager. Section 11-500.5.2, Revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Municipal Hearing Officer Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the review from fines in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 148A and Chapter 115 of the Acts of 2009, received in connection with the program. Section 11-500.5.3, Purpose and Expenditures. During each fiscal year, the town manager may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Municipal Hearing Officer Revolving Fund for expenses associated with the administration and collection of fines in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 148A and Chapter 115 of the Acts of 2009. Section 11-500.5.4, Other Requirements/Reports, none. Section 11-500.5.5, fiscal years. The demolition of buildings, a revolving fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1st of 2018. Section 11-500.6, Southbridge Middle High School Store Revolving Fund. Section 11-500.6.1, fund name. There shall be a separate fund called the Southbridge Middle High School Store Revolving Fund authorized for use by the Southbridge Business Manager. Section 11-500.6.2, revenues. The town accountant shall establish the Southbridge Middle High School Store Revolving Fund as a separate account and credit to the fund all of the sales and other revenues received by the school business manager in connection with the school store program. Section 11-500.6.3, purpose and expenditures. During each fiscal year, the school business manager may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Southbridge Middle High School Store Revolving Fund for expenses associated with the school store operations. Section 11-500.6.4, other requirements, reports, none. Section 11-500.6.5, fiscal years. The Southbridge Middle High School Revolving Fund shall operate for fiscal years that begin on or after July 1st, 2018. The provision of these sections are effective immediately upon affirmation vote of the town council. All bylaws or parts of bylaws inconsistent herewithin are hereby repealed.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr.
Second reading? There's 3 readings required, so we'll put it on for August 6th for final reading and adoption. Okay?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Nash?
Thank you, sir. Through you. Just a quick note to correct that the agenda states that there is a vote to accept, and it really shouldn't come that way when it's just the readings. It should be the second reading as it's labeled down at the bottom right.
Yeah.
So there is no vote. We all know that, but the agenda reads for a vote. Thank you.
Councilors forum. Start on this end with Councilor Daniels.
Thank you, Chairman. It's come to my attention that there's some people that are concerned about some issues in town involving homelessness and helping to feed the poor, people that are needy. So I took it upon myself to do a little bit of research, and I came up with a couple of resources that are available in town that people are probably aware of, but just need to be reminded of. So very quickly, I'd like to say, first, we have the food share program at 79 Elm Street. They are open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 to 11:15 a.m. Their phone number is 508-764-6583, and you can call that for further information. A second food pantry is the St. John Paul II Food Pantry at 279 Hamilton Street, which is the ministry center for St. John Paul II Parish. Their phone number is 508-765-0245. They're open to the general public on Tuesdays from 3 to 5 and on Thursdays from 9:15 to 11. And they also run something a little unique, and that's a senior supplement program. If you're 65 or older, you can come in. There are no pre-qualifications. It's just something that they're doing to open up the program to those in need who are senior citizens. That's open on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesdays of the month, again from 9:15 to 11. And don't be frightened, even though it's St. John Paul II, it's non-denominational. They welcome everyone. If you want to make donations to St. John Paul II, you can call the St. John Paul II office, ministry office. For homelessness, Dr. John Howland is the director of a program called St. Luke's Guest House, and that's at 141 Main Street. They have approximately 15 beds, and they're full most of the time, but they're always willing to help out if they can. They're also looking for help. If you're willing to help, they'd like you to get a hold of them. Their phone number is 508-764-9800, and they also have a website, www.stlukesguesthouse.com. And there you'll find instructions on how you can help out, how you can volunteer, and how you can make donations to help them out. Thank you, Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Daniels. Councilor O'Clair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I've gotten a few different phone calls and messages from residents about the intersection on Pleasant Street. And Mark, Councilor DePietro, you're chairing that this year, correct?
I'm sorry, Council, one more time?
I was hoping that maybe we could schedule a DPW meeting in the near future to talk about and discuss the intersection on Pleasant Street.
I'd be
At
more
the
than
bottom of
pleased,
Pleasant Street.
Council. I just found out that I'm back on it.
Yay! Thank you. That's all I have.
So, Councilor Claire, when we talk bottom of Pleasant, is that Pleasant going into
Pleasant.
West Main?
And River?
River, the upper section?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a pretty bad accident there about a month and a half ago. A car came up onto the property of one of the corner houses right there. Yeah, and so there are a lot of people that are very wary about that intersection right now.
Mr. Town Manager?
Just a question I'm trying to understand. Is this a traffic issue, street sign issue, or is this a DPW issue?
I think that some residents would like to see stop signs put there. I think that, maybe the very first baby step would be to, maybe get a police cruiser down there just checking it out or something.
Through you then, just so I can be clear, it seems to me what you're asking for is not really through the DPW subcommittee. It would rather go through the Traffic Commission and Shane.
Okay.
So if we talk to the police chief, you can have that topic added to his Traffic Commission agenda, and it can be discussed there. So what we'd want is information from the residents as to what they were looking for, a stop sign or whatever it might be. We'll get it onto the agenda, and the chief of police will move it forward on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
So we have two things to follow up with the chief. We have the issues on Main Street that were brought up tonight by a citizen, and we will have that forwarded also, Councilor, over for the Pleasant Street issue. Okay? All right. Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that I know that there's a bunch of bylaws and stuff coming down the pike in the very near future for Gen Gov. It's primarily, I guess, to the councilors, but the public is obviously interested in some of these things too.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is that I know we're going to be addressing a whole bunch of bylaws coming down the pike in the near future at Gen Gov. I know, for example, that we're going to be doing that. You got the zoning bylaw, complete revamp of that system. So one of the things I wanted to do is start addressing that little bits and pieces over the course of the next couple of months before we get to the public hearing, because the public hearing's in September or something like that. So I figured if we take a look at parts of it, it's like 75 pages long. So there's no way we can look at it all at once. So I was thinking of doing something with that in little sections for the next 2 months or so. Also, I know the Conservation Commission is just about done with a wetlands bylaw. They're also possibly talking about a stormwater bylaw. They haven't started that one yet. The Agricultural Commission has finished a right to farm bylaw, so that'll be coming down the pike soon. They're talking possibly, and that's something that I know that they were supposed to talk to Andy about doing some revamp to the chicken bylaws. And the medical pot bylaw, the planning board approved that last week. So that'll be coming down the pike in the very near future. So I just wanted to bring those things up. And also, to piggyback on what Councilor Daniel said a second ago, I also wanted to mention that I didn't know you were going to bring this up, but one also interesting resource out there for people who are concerned about homelessness and specifically would like to help with it is an organization called the Backpack Brigade. They're actually based in Dudley, and they primarily serve Dudley and Webster, but they also do reach out into Southbridge occasionally. And their primary focus is actually providing people who are homeless with a variety of services and food and warm backpacks of stuff. So if you have any of that kind of stuff that you would like to donate, you can reach out to them. They have a Facebook page. I wasn't aware that he was going to bring it up because I don't know their number offhand, but you can find it on Facebook. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Steves. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to send out my condolences to Officer Michael Chesna and Miss Vera Adams, who were killed yesterday. And I wanted to send out my condolences and to the family and friends of these two. And Governor Baker today issued half-mast for all flags, state, public, and then usually I follow through with my own flag at half-mast. There is no date yet to raise the flags back up, but it said basically to be determined. Last week I got to attend quite a few meetings, and one was the planning board. And it was very interesting to watch the volunteers. I know I volunteered for the Board of Health, and it was very interesting listening to all the great things that are actually happening and pushing through, coming up to the town council and other areas. And that includes the Vienna, the bowling alley, possible marijuana dispensary. So it was interesting and it was insightful to listen to all of them and all the hard work they put into it. So I want to thank them for everything that they did. I also attended the firehouse or fire station committee meeting and a few others. And again, it was just amazing on the volunteers and what they do for us here in this town. Mr. Buxton had brought up the landfill oversight committee. And that was something that we kind of brought back up to speed or brought it out of its death a few months ago. And one thing that it was not just to adhere to rules and regulations, but we also changed the mission statement. So it wasn't just about what's happening now with the landfill, because that's a hot topic, but also the future of the landfill after the closure itself. So if there are any citizens out there that would like to volunteer, please do so. You'll get a better understanding of what is happening here in the town hall. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Adams, thank you for the words of condolence about the officer. It's just a reminder of what is out there today. And I apologize for not bringing it up early. The work that our Southbridge Police Department is doing on a daily basis in our community. If anyone follows their Facebook page, the guns that they're taking off the street in our town is just incredible. And we need to be vigilant and offer support to our public safety and hold them in our hearts that they are safe. So thank you. Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Chairman. I would publicly apologize for not attending our last council meeting. I fortunately had to handle personal business, but I would officially welcome our 3 new councilors for the year and congratulate as well our new chairman of the council.
Thank you, Council. Councilor DePietro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To expand on Councilor Adams' comments, the tragedy in Weymouth, I think it would be right and appropriate if the chair would offer a moment of silence for the victims of those murders.
Absolutely, we will offer that moment of silence. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else?
That's
all.
that's all,
Councilor
Mr.
Nash.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. A couple of quick notes here tonight. First of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to, first, the residents that have reached out to me in regards to some concerns that they had at the Charlton Street School playground. And just as much, I'm grateful for DPW Director Blakely for inspecting, as well as Mr. Como from the facilities management team at the school department for looking into those concerns and taking action. So ask and sometimes you shall receive. Those concerns were addressed fairly readily, as I recall, so thank you to all involved, and to the town manager for putting that into action when I called. As always, very responsive, Mr. Town Manager, thank you. Second of all, tonight, I just want to thank the chairman for coming through the committee assignments. I couldn't be more grateful to see that Councilor Adams and Councilor Daniel will be on Education Human Services Subcommittee with me. I am very optimistic that with their expertise and their records and their aggressiveness and initiative, we're going to do great things on EHS this year. As I had said, there are citizen member appointments that are up July 31st for most subcommittees. All of those citizen members should be available or able to stay on those committees if the committees so choose, but anyone looking to get involved, we have 5 subcommittees. You can get a board interest form on the town's website or through the town manager's office, and I'd encourage anyone and everyone to please get involved. We always are grateful to have citizens involved in our processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just a couple of things. Thank you, Council Adams, for bringing up the tragedy in Weymouth. It's a tragedy, and it's a reminder of what all of our safety, police officers, even our firefighters, face every day when they're out there. So they go into the battle and protect us, and sometimes they pay the ultimate price. So thank you for reminding us of that. Through you, Mr. Chair, just an observance. You know, we're here at a town council. We're here for a meeting. The town manager is here for a purpose for our meetings. Last fiscal year, and I just noticed tonight, the town manager getting up and walking away and going off and doing something else. Unless it's an emergency, the town manager is supposed to be here at the council meeting with us, not getting up and talking with citizens that more than likely could probably wait until afterwards. The town business is a town business, and it shows strictly in our charter where the town manager is supposed to be during a town council meeting. And that's my observance, and I just wanted to bring it up to you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. And just a reminder to everyone out there that with the heat, just check on your neighbors, those who are sick, the elderly, even the pets. Just, you know, some people don't have air conditioners. I know mine haven't gotten put in yet. They probably might get put in September when it's too late, but it does get hot. And we just need to be vigilant of that and check on our neighbors. Just be good neighbors. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 15, vote to enter an executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21(3). A1, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. And B, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 39B, Section 23B3, to discuss strategy and conduct bargaining with non-union personnel. If discussion in open session will have a detrimental effect on the position of the government body, and if the chair so, in the government body. And we will adjourn in executive session and not come out to open session.
If I may, you went over agenda item number 14.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. The next meeting date will be the special town council meeting of Wednesday, July 25th, which will be the discussion of goals and objectives. Thank you, Councilman. So we have a motion.
Second.
Second. Roll call. Yes.
Councilor Auclair?
Yes.
Councilor Daniel?
Yes.
Councilor DePietro?
Yes.
Councilor Jovan?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Morales?
Yes.
Councilor Nash? Councilor Steves?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. And again, we will not reconvene in open session. Thank you. Have a good day.